My parents forced me to lose weight for my sister's wedding, but after my transformation, they couldn't handle my success. Growing up, I was always an overweight child. I've always been bigger than the majority of the other kindergarten students. While my peers were still figuring out what made them distinctive, my size had already stood out. As I grew older, the weight I carried became more visible. By high school, I was indisputably overweight, and my shape and girth served as a continuous reminder of my differences. College was not much different. While some of my peers began to find who they were or explore new aspects of themselves, I stayed stuck in the same identity, overweight and occasionally fighting with it. It wasn't easy being the bigger kid. It exposed me to continual ridicule, mockery, and nasty comments from people who didn't know or cared to understand me. Growing up, I was bullied more than I care to recall. Classmates teased me mercilessly. Their insults ate away at me, creating profound doubts and self-doubt that felt impossible to overcome. They'd call me names, tell cruel jokes, and I'd frequently be the punchline. I was always singled out, as if I were somehow unworthy of affection or companionship. I was continually excluded from games, parties, and gatherings. It felt like I was always on the outside, watching everyone else go through the regular ups and downs of childhood and adolescence from a distance I couldn't reach. These years of bullying influenced how I perceived myself and responded to the world. I felt out of place with others, so I sought sanctuary in books. I lost myself in literature and stories that helped me escape my daily troubles. Books did not judge me. They did not ridicule me. I became known as the nerd, and I didn't like it all that much. Bonnie, my younger sister, was very different from me. She was only a year younger than me and possessed an effortless charisma that drew others to her. Bonnie thrived in social situations, whereas I was shy and reserved. She had a fascinating personality. She could go into a room and instantly have everyone smiling, laughing, and absolutely fascinated by her. Bonnie didn't just make friends easily, she seemed to have an intrinsic ability to persuade people to support her, almost as if she were the sun around which everyone gravitated. Regardless of our differences, I adored her. I took my job as her older sister seriously, feeling fiercely protective whenever she needed it. When she began attending the same high school as mine, I was overjoyed. Initially, being Bonnie's older sister made me feel proud, as if I had a particular place in her life. However, as she grew older, things began to alter. As Bonnie settled into high school and began to create her own personality, I saw a difference in how she perceived me. She began to see how different we were, and how differently we were treated. Whereas I was the bookish, quiet kind, she was vivacious and popular, someone who rapidly established herself among the cool circle. I observed as she became aware of my eccentricities and insecurities, which had previously made me appear uncool. Bonnie began to distance herself from me as she found new pals. She would then try to actively ignore or avoid me in school. That hurt. It genuinely pained me that my own sibling saw me as inferior. Nonetheless, I did my best to accept her decision and give her the distance she appeared to require, even though it hurt to think I was losing not only my sister but also a friend. But, gradually, Bonnie stopped ignoring me and began to associate with others who made me feel like an outcast. Bonnie and her pals would take advantage of any opportunity to humiliate me whenever we met in the corridors or at lunch. They'd taunt me in front of other students or worse, try to trip me as I passed past with my lunch tray, just to make everyone laugh. It felt like I was losing her, not to new people, but to the same taunting and abusive conduct I'd been subjected to for so long. I was always on guard, attempting to avoid not just my peers' criticism but also the humiliation inflicted by my own sister. It hurt a lot, especially because it came from someone I had always admired and looked up to. When Bonnie invited her friends over, they would all gang up on me at home. They would rush into my room without knocking, then laugh and gesture to my body. They'd fling insults like geek and fatty at me like they were nothing. I felt like a zoo animal, as if I were their source of entertainment. When they entered my personal space in my room, I felt small and alone, as if I were an alien in my own home. I tried to explain it to my parents several times, hoping they would realize how tough it was for me to deal with Bonnie's conduct. But every time I brought it up, they dismissed my worries. They'd smile and defend her acts, claiming that this is how siblings bond, that Bonnie was only playing around with me. They told me it was harmless, even suggesting that I loosen up and stop taking everyone's taunts so seriously. They told me that I was older and should be more patient and resilient. So, not only did I face years of bullying from my peers, including my own sister, but my concerns were repeatedly rejected by my parents. It made me feel isolated, as if no one in my own family realized or understood how deeply it hurt. The only time I ever felt properly noticed by our parents was when I received my grades. Academics had always come effortlessly to me, and I became accustomed to receiving high grades. In a way, it was the one area where I felt superior to everyone else. It was also the one way I could make my parents proud, the one part of my life that they appeared to actually care about. My parents enjoyed bragging about my accomplishments to friends and relatives, portraying me as the family scholar, as if my grades were evidence of their parenting prowess. But Bonnie detested the analogies. She was not an academic overachiever, nor did she want to be, but our parents' repeated reminders of my accomplishments made her resentful. They put my grades up as an example, meaning that she needed to do the same. I could always tell she was frustrated and angry, which is probably why she did what she did to me. Bonnie would occasionally attempt to destroy my hard work in order to get back at me. She would sneak into my room in the middle of the night and grab my homework, often just before a major task was due. I'd wake up the next morning to find my perfectly completed work stolen. Panic would set in, and I'd feverishly hunt through my books, papers, and files, becoming increasingly anxious with each passing minute. And there she'd be, smirking, watching me from the doorway, relishing every moment of my anxiety. To her, it was a minor victory, a way to bring me down a peg and remind me that I wasn't invincible. She understood how important my grades were to me, how much of my self-worth I had invested in them, and she enjoyed disturbing that aspect of my life. I only found out about her stealing my assignments years later, when she drunkenly admitted one evening. My relationship with Bonnie has softened over time, but we are still far from close. You could say we've matured a little, and some of the animosity from our youth has dissipated. However, the strong closeness that siblings often enjoy did not fully emerge between us. After graduation, I moved out and started a new life in a new city, with an interesting job and new chances, which meant I didn't see my family as much. As time passed, our communications became limited to occasional phone calls or texts. So, last year, when I scheduled a summer visit home, I was truly excited to see everyone. It had been a long time since we'd all gotten together as a family, and I was excited to catch up and reconnect. However, not everything went as planned. Our family lunch began well enough. Everyone appeared delighted to see me, and for a moment, it felt like old times. That changed, however, when Bonnie unexpectedly revealed her engagement. None of us saw it coming, and we initially assumed she was joking. However, it was instantly apparent that she was serious. She proudly put out her hand, displaying a gorgeous ring, and I couldn't help but remark how exquisite it was. I was genuinely happy for her, delighted that she had finally met someone she loved and who loved her back. Almost as soon as the congratulations subsided, Bonnie turned to me and inquired about my recent activities. I told her about my profession, my life, and how rewarding things had been for me. Before I could finish, she cut me off. "I can't help but say this," she started, smirking. "But why are you still fat? If your life is truly amazing, shouldn't you have shed weight by now?" Her remarks hit me like a slap, reawakening old insecurities that I thought I had overcome. The room became uncomfortably silent, and I could feel everyone's gaze on me, waiting to see how I would respond. I merely shrugged and tried to laugh awkwardly at her comment. But my parents immediately joined in to criticize me. They began discussing how I was still obese and unmarried, and how they were concerned I would never have children. I felt so mortified hearing them talk like that. My accomplishments, the work I was proud of, the life I had made for myself in another city, didn't seem to matter in their eyes. They were just concerned with my weight and the fact that I did not have my own family. As my parents and sister continued to talk about me, their comments wound deeper than I imagined. I had spent years eventually discovering myself, gaining confidence and freedom. But in those moments, I felt like the same nervous, awkward teenager I had always been, anxious for my family's acceptance and approval. My parents then applauded Bonnie for getting engaged before me and expressed their pride in her. To them, I was the inferior child, successful but not quite enough. What was supposed to be a happy family reunion had swiftly turned into a heartbreaking reminder of old scars. At that point, I felt more like an outsider than ever. Bonnie did not stop. She continued to ask probing questions. "So, when are you getting married? Do you even have a boyfriend?" She was blatantly mocking me in front of everyone by bringing up my romantic life. My parents soon jumped on the subject, agreeing with Bonnie that it was past time for me to find someone before it was too late. They pointed out how Bonnie, being younger, was settling down before me, whilst I, the older one, was wasting my life away at work. I attempted to argue that I liked my life the way it was, that my work and freedom provided me with fulfillment. My career paid well, and I was passionate about it, so why did I need to meet a spouse or have a child to be happy? "I am content just the way I am," I informed them. But my words didn't appear to register. My mother, especially, appeared contemptuous. She gave me a sharp look and taunted me. What's the point of earning all that money if you don't have anyone to come home to? It was as if she couldn't believe that happiness existed outside of marriage or family. Sitting there, I had the typical feeling of being misunderstood, that my life choices were disregarded. This was my family, and they were supposed to know me best. However, they appeared to be preoccupied with a different definition of happiness than mine. I had come home seeking connection and warmth, but instead got judgment and taunts. Bonnie then smirked and added, "I expect you to at least have a +1 by the time my wedding rolls around." She chuckled and kept going. "I don't want people thinking my sister is some old miserable woman all alone while I'm getting married." The comment stung. I simply shook my head and assured her I'd try. That's when my folks spoke out again, matter-of-factly. "Bonnie's wedding is almost a year away. Even if you can't find a partner, you could at least try to lose weight and look more presentable for her wedding." They suggested that if I reduced weight, it would be simpler for me to attract a partner. Bonnie enthusiastically agreed with them. "Yeah, I want you to lose a few pounds at least," she remarked nonchalantly, as if she was doing me a favor. I sat there, astonished and humiliated, with an aching that I hadn't felt in years. How could my relatives talk to me like this? Did I truly deserve their hateful words simply because I was overweight? Was I not meant to have feelings because I was fat? I was a normal person, just like them. I functioned like everyone else. I never considered my weight as an impediment, so why did they? I'd even dated men who liked me just the way I was, but my parents and Bonnie made it sound like my weight was preventing me from finding love or men approaching me, which wasn't even true. I wanted to defend myself and tell them how terrible their statements were, but I felt frozen, unable to find the correct words. Their statements took me back to high school, to the agonizing times when my weight made me a target. I despised how nonchalantly my family brought up my deepest concerns without considering how they made me feel. So I sat there, holding in my pain, and let the topic go to anything else. When I returned home from my trip to see my family, I pushed myself into reducing weight with a zeal I had not realized I possessed. It began as a way to prove something to my family, but it gradually grew very personal. I joined a gym, followed a rigorous diet, and even hired a personal trainer. My trainer has been a lifesaver. After going through her own change from overweight to healthy weight, she knew just how to assist me through a path tailored particularly for me. She created a routine specific to my goals and encouraged me every step of the way, reminding me to give myself grace when I stumbled. This time, everything seemed to click. I started losing weight steadily, and as the pounds came off, I felt lighter. Not just physically, but also mentally. For the first time in my life, I began to feel and appear different. My confidence increased quickly. I used to assume that decreasing weight wouldn't have much of an influence, but it has. People see me differently today. Strangers are nicer and more attentive. Friends and colleagues see me with fresh respect. I can't deny that this seems like a validation I've never gotten before. It's as if I've suddenly become more noticeable than I was before. My new body brought a new sense of style. I overhauled my entire wardrobe, filling it with items I had only fantasized about wearing. I even opted for a full hair makeover, attempting a daring and trendy style that I would have been too afraid to try in the past. Perhaps it seems expensive, but I've never felt so good. I look in the mirror now and don't recognize the person staring back. It's like meeting a version of myself that I never knew existed. I'm proud of how far I've come, not just because I lost weight, but also because I gained confidence and self-assurance. With Bonnie's wedding just 2 weeks away, my family has invited me to fly down and join them for lunch next week to finalize the plans for her special day. But I don't feel like returning home. I don't want my family to ridicule me again or make me feel tiny, especially now that I'm finally feeling good about myself for the first time in a long time. I don't want to go to Bonnie's wedding anymore because of how she and my parents have treated me, but I know if I don't go, they'll be furious and give me a long lecture about how family is family and how, no matter how heartbroken I am, I must be present for Bonnie's big day. So, Aita, what happens if I do not attend my sister's wedding? Update 1. Wow, I'm overwhelmed by everyone's response. Some of your proposals are truly humorous. I can't believe you're encouraging me to show up and mess with my sister now that I've lost so much weight. Growing up as a fat kid had a negative impact on my self-esteem, particularly in terms of how I perceived myself. I struggled with self-doubt for a long time, always believing that I wasn't good enough or didn't measure up to others. But reading all of your responses has been a game changer. It's as if you've helped me see myself in a completely new light, and I'm finally starting to feel more confident than I ever have. In fact, I'm seriously considering turning up to my family's lunch and shocking them. They haven't seen me in a long time, and since I don't use social media, they have no idea how much weight I've dropped. It will be interesting to witness their reactions. Update 2. Okay, Reddit, you're not prepared for this upgrade. Grab some popcorn because things are about to get exciting. I decided to fly down to join my family for lunch. As I previously stated, I believed that when they saw me, they would be proud of the transformation I had undergone. After all, they were the ones who pushed me into it in the first place. Surely, they'd be overjoyed to see the positive improvements in me and finally recognize the effort I'd put in. When I walked into my parents' house, their jaws absolutely dropped. They looked at me, stunned, as if they couldn't believe I was the same person. After a time, they stammered, wondering if it was actually me. I gave them a big hug, thrilled with their reaction. They continually complimented my appearance, saying how beautiful I looked and how they couldn't believe it was me. However, when Bonnie came, the situation changed. She didn't notice me at first, disregarding me as if I were invisible, as she had done so many times before. But when I rose up to greet her, she did a double take, her eyes widening with surprise. She gave an odd, almost forced laugh before reaching over and pushing her fingers on my stomach, wide-eyed, as if she wanted proof that I had truly dropped all of that weight. My parents laughed at her reaction and explained that they too couldn't believe it at first. As we settled in for lunch, the subject turned to my makeover. Bonnie and my parents bombarded me with questions about how I had done it, marveling at how different I appeared. Their voices were full of surprise, as if they had never imagined I could look any other way. Bonnie, in particular, kept saying that she had never anticipated me to alter so dramatically after dropping weight. Then she dropped this gem. When I first asked you to lose weight, I never expected you to look this pretty. I didn't even know you had that jawline. And those ankles beneath all that fat. I hesitated, attempting to maintain my cool, and smiled at her before reminding her. Bonnie, I've always been pretty. Losing weight just enhanced my features. Bonnie, on the other hand, contended that there was something more about me that was distinct. Then she had the courage to ask, did you have some surgeries done on yourself? Because there's no way you look this good by yourself. I could feel my blood starting to boil. The hubris to believe that I required surgery to look attractive when, in fact, I had worked so hard to get my current appearance. I looked her directly in the eyes and replied, wow, Bonnie, it's amazing that you think that little of me. No surgery, just a lot of hard work and self-love. Something you might want to try sometime. Bonnie's expression changed from surprise to displeasure, but I didn't care. It felt amazing to finally say something and put her in her place. Before she could react, my parents jumped in, attempting to smooth things over in their own way. You shouldn't be offended, my mother replied. The three of us have just never seen you look this way before. Honestly, you look even more beautiful now than Bonnie does, and she's the one getting married. Bonnie appeared much angrier following Mom's remark. I simply ignored her and concentrated on my food, allowing my sister to seethe in her rage. Then my mother joined in. You know, I was thinking, maybe you should go back to your original hair color. I think you'd look even better with your natural shade. This blonde look makes you stand out too much. Maybe you should just go back to your old look. Bonnie and my father quickly agreed with her. My dad concurred with my mom and said, Bonnie has always been the blonde daughter of the family, and you were the brunette. So, it would be a good idea for you to go back to your original hair color. It might make you look more like yourself. Hearing their statements, I was taken aback. I suddenly felt like the three of them were ganging up on me, attempting to bring me down. My hairstylist had suggested that I change my hair color to blonde because it better matched my skin tone and complexion. It had nothing to do with attempting to outperform or overshadow my sister. I could see why Bonnie was jealous of me. I looked nice now, but I couldn't figure out why my folks were so unhappy with me. It was as if they wanted to transform me back into who I was, despite the fact that they had wanted me to be more acceptable for their darling daughter's forthcoming wedding in the first place. But now that I did, they couldn't accept who I had become. Instead of recognizing my progress, they sought to undermine me. I finally questioned my parents. What's your problem? Why can't I be blonde too? Does my sister own that color or something? I paused, annoyed. No, she doesn't. I can be blonde or brunette, it's my choice. Why does it even matter to you so much? I couldn't understand why they were so obsessed on my returning to my former self, as if my appearance had to match who I was. Before, my mother scoffed at me and claimed that I was purposefully attempting to undermine Bonnie's wedding by making an effort to stand out with my appearance. Bonnie joined in, stating, with your weight loss, you're already going to stand out, so do you really need to take my hair color too? My father, as usual, agreed with him, telling me that I was being difficult for no reason and that, as Bonnie's sister, I should be more tolerant. I couldn't believe what I heard. It was not about stealing anything, it was about having the ability to do whatever made me happy. But instead of supporting it, they were all concerned about how it would make Bonnie uncomfortable. You know what? I'm done with this, I murmured, the words almost burning as they from my lips. The three of you are so caught up in your own negativity that you can't even accept that I've changed. The truth is, I've always been amazing just the way I am, but none of you ever saw it. Now, even after I've lost weight, it's still not good enough for you. No matter what I do, it's never enough. I took time to process what I had just said. They only gazed at me, and it didn't matter. I was done with holding back. Since you all have so much to say about me, I think it's time I gave you some unsolicited advice, just like you love to give me. I turned to my mother first, feeling the words surge inside me like a deluge. Mom, I really hate how loose the skin is around your eyes and your lips. They droop on one side when you laugh. I can't help but notice all your crooked teeth, and honestly, it's just disgusting to me. I just gave her a second to react before turning to my father. Dad, I said with a stern voice, you're bald. You really have no right to say anything about anyone's hair or their hair color. How are you going to criticize someone's looks when you can't even keep a full head of hair? I noticed his face stiffening, but I wasn't finished yet. Finally, I resorted to Bonnie. And you, don't ever talk down to me again. Between the two of us, I've always been the better-looking sibling. But now, with all the weight I've lost, you look even fatter than me. Just look at those chubby arms of yours. Bonnie's face flushed with shame and she appeared to be about to burst into tears. I then hoisted my glass, downed my drink in one go, and walked out with a smirk, leaving everyone stunned and astonished. I had spoken everything I needed to say. I couldn't believe those words had come out of my mouth, but I didn't regret them one bit. They deserved to be humiliated after years of being criticized. After lunch, I flew directly back home. I did not want to stay behind and attend Bonnie's wedding. Since then, my phone has been overloaded with voicemails and texts from my parents and Bonnie. They've been calling me disrespectful and foul-mouthed for how I spoke to them and for simply leaving. Mom even insists that I fly back down to attend Bonnie's wedding because it won't look good to her in-laws if I don't. Update 3. So I ended up skipping Bonnie's wedding. Thanks to all of your suggestions, instead of returning home to attend, I decided to treat myself to an impromptu staycation at a 5-star resort. Honestly, it was one of the best moves I'd made in a long time. I spent the weekend doing whatever made me happy. No drama or pressure, just pure enjoyment. I treated myself to a spa day, binge-watched my favorite shows, and even visited some new places in the city I'd been longing to see. I've also blocked my relatives, so they can't contact me again. I'm weary of being bullied by them and want to avoid all of the poison and drama. Right now, my primary focus is on self-care. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.